formal time limit of 5 minutes. Rebecca Powell.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker. And it's always a pleasure to follow the honourable member from the right honourable member from Doncaster North, with whom I share a role on the all-party climate change committee, and that's very much cross-party. And I've got to say, I too share some of his frustration. I was an environmental campaigner all my life, Friends of the Earth, Greenpeace. I was anti-nuclear, actually. I'm not anymore, because, of course, that's low carbon. And I vowed that if I ever came to Westminster, I would get involved in this agenda. And guess what? I have, and we are doing things, and I'm deeply frustrated about some of the misinformation peddled about the lack of things we're doing. That's not to say there isn't more to do, because a great many good achievements have been made, as the Secretary of State referred to, with our cutting of our gas emissions by 25%, with our phasing out of coal-fired power stations, with our renewable agenda and all the jobs. That's good work, but without a shadow of a doubt, the degradation of this planet and the situation we've got to with climate change is very severe, and we do need to do more, and we do need to do it quicker. So I'm not going to argue about that. And as I've said in this chamber before, this is definitely bigger than Brexit. And I do reiterate the calls for the net zero calls that are being made today. I said this in a PMQ last week. I mean it, and I believe our government absolutely means business on that when we hear the advice of the Climate Change Committee tomorrow. And I know that all those people in Taunton Deane that I've met with, Taunton Green parents, the Extinction Rebellion people that I met up here, all sorts of religious people of every shape and form have come to me saying, will you please put the environment at the top of the agenda so people care. But in order to really radically cut the emissions that we've got to do realistically, setting in place for the 2030 target, indeed, for the 12-year deadline, we do have to have some really big thinking. But, as other members have said, we are capable of sorting this out. It will require more of the right policies. We've got good policies, but we need more. It will require driving societal change and investment into the right infrastructure and the right science, with vision, targets, market mechanisms and regulation that we check regularly to make sure that it is all working. And the overarching umbrella has to be sustainability. If we put sustainability over every single thing we do, so that every department comes under it, we can't go wrong, because without sustainable soil, water, air, biodiversity, we simply can't live. We can live for a short while, for one election period, but we can't keep going. So it's absolutely essential. I would also say we need to line up our policies perhaps more cleverly than we are right now. Just one small thing, the Clean Growth Strategy, which I applaud, needs to align itself much better with the Prosperity Fund. There's a bit of a conflict there with that drive for ever more growth and productivity. We have to get that sustainability into things like the Prosperity Fund. And I do honestly think that every single person out there can share this with us. I genuinely think it's really exciting, and that we do need to change society to solve this crisis. And yes, there might be, as the honourable member from Doncaster said, it might be a bit uncomfortable, but I actually think there'll be great benefits. I mean, we'll be healthier because we'll be cycling, we'll be walking more, providing we put in the right framework for all of those cycleways and walkways. We can have potentially vehicle-free streets. How lovely would Taunton look if we did that? We can have prettier towns, not breathing fumes. Our homes, I would love to give way.
On that point, although the debate has been opened today by DEFRA and closed by Bayes, would she not agree that this is much cross-governmental as it is anything else? So, Department of Communities and Local Government have a huge role to play. Cycle Winchester on the weekend, there were hundreds of us cycling through Winchester as part of the mass cycle ride, but there is about as much length of dedicated, safe cycleway in the city of Winchester as there is the length of this chamber. So, local government's got a huge role to play to make this change that she talks about in respect of cycling.
Thank you so much for raising that. Only yesterday I went to a superb event here, hosted by the member from South West Bedfordshire on cycling on that very, very point, and he makes a good point, which we do need to take up lots of the recommendations that came from that event yesterday. And also on that note, yes, the communities and local government are key to this because they drive our developments and our homes. We need to have more eco-friendly, energy-efficient homes, releasing less carbon dioxide to the atmosphere with much more energy-efficient heating systems. And I actually did a 10-minute rule bill on this not very long ago, calling for a better consultation on all of this and to embrace the technologies. And we have to ask ourselves, how are we going to do all this? We've got the clean growth strategy. Science and technology, as I said earlier, will play a really important role in this, but we need to put more capital in, and we actually need to have a plan for raising capital for the investments in all of these future technologies that we need to introduce at pace. I'm just going to talk quickly about the wider environment. We have got such an opportunity to change our land use, the way we use our land and the demands we have from it, the nature capital impact, paying for public services and goods so that we plant more trees, we have better soil management which holds carbon, captures carbon, helps control flooding. All of those things are important, but we have the opportunity, if we can get it right, in the 25-year plan, the Agriculture Bill and the forthcoming Environment Bill. It is a very exciting opportunity, but we have to get it right. I know my time is running out. Transport quickly. I'm just chairman of the Electric Vehicle Group. This is going to be a big and growing and important agenda. And I think the Committee on Climate Change are going to set us even stricter targets on getting rid of diesel and petrol cars. So we have to get that infrastructure in place right now. We have to get the storage sorted out. And that's going to be so important going forward, as are things like carbon capture, which I haven't mentioned yet, but I think that can be a really big part of this agenda if we invest in it correctly. So, finally, to sum up, Madam Deputy Speaker, I honestly think that this could be the new green revolution. I am pleased to be part of it. We should all be part of it. I know we will. And I look forward to the announcements from the Climate Change Committee and our government taking them up.
Thank you. Cat Smith.